never thought Christmas could feel like a punishment, but the moment my parents told me my son wasn't welcome, everything inside me shattered like a glass ornament hitting the floor. And the worst part? They didn't even try to hide their excitement about celebrating without him. They smiled, drank hot cocoa, and planned the perfect holiday, while banning an innocent little boy who did nothing wrong. I used to think family meant unconditional love, especially during the holidays, but that day taught me how cruel the closest people to you can be. It all started one chilly December afternoon, when snow covered the streets like a soft blanket, and everyone around us was cheerful, decorating their homes, shopping for gifts, and playing Christmas music loud enough to drown out any sadness. But inside my house, it was the total opposite. My phone rang, and the minute I saw my mom's name on the screen, I thought maybe she wanted to check on us or invite us early to help with decorations. My son was beside me, coloring a picture of Santa and singing a little Christmas song under his breath. He looked so happy, and that happiness was about to get crushed. I answered the call with a smile that instantly disappeared. My mom didn't even say hello properly before dropping her bombshell. She told me she and my dad had talked, and they decided that my son shouldn't come to Christmas dinner this year. She said he didn't behave well last time and would only ruin the peace. Like he was some kind of burden. My chest tightened, and I could feel anger boiling under my skin. He was just 6 years old. Kids cry, kids get excited, kids make noise, especially on Christmas. That's what being a kid is. I tried to explain, to defend him, to tell her that he's doing better, that he's learning, that he's trying so hard because he loves Christmas and loves them. But my mom wouldn't listen. Her voice was cold, like she had already decided everything long before calling. She said my sister, kids would be there, and they needed a nice and calm environment, especially for the photos and videos she planned to share online. That part stung the most. They cared more about social media perfection than their own grandson's heart. When I hung up, my hands were shaking. My son looked up at me, his eyes full of innocence, and he asked, "Grandma said what?" with the cutest confused expression. I forced a smile and lied, saying plans weren't ready yet and we'd hear soon. I didn't want to break his little heart weeks before Christmas. But inside, I felt like crying. Actually, I did cry, in the bathroom where he couldn't see me. I leaned against the sink, covering my mouth to muffle the sound. Every tear felt like betrayal. How could my parents do this? Days passed, and while our house was quiet and simple, my sister kept posting pictures of her kids visiting my parents, decorating the tree, baking cookies, wrapping gifts. My son looked at those posts too. His eyes sparkled, and every time he asked, "Will I do that too?" my heart cracked a little more. I kept waiting, hoping maybe my parents would change their minds. Maybe they'd call and apologize. Maybe they'd remember that love shouldn't have conditions. But that call never came. Christmas Eve arrived. I called them again, giving them one last chance to be better, to act like grandparents. My dad answered, sounding annoyed, telling me plans were set and there was no room left at the table. No room, like we were strangers trying to crash a party. I wanted to scream, but instead I whispered, "Okay," and hung up, my voice trembling. My son rushed over with his small backpack, saying he had packed his favorite toy cars to show his cousins. I couldn't speak. My silence gave him the answer he feared, and I watched the excitement drain from his face like someone blew out his inner Christmas lights. He walked away quietly, too quietly, and sat beside the tiny tree we had bought, a small one because money was tight, and I planned to surprise him with more joy at Grandma's house. He put his head on his knees, and I saw a tear slide down his cheek. He didn't cry loudly, he just sat there, trying to understand why he wasn't wanted. I wrapped my arms around him and held him close, promising we would still have a beautiful Christmas together. I promised him magic. I promised him love. I promised him things I wasn't even sure I could deliver. But then, something in me snapped. Why should we be the ones forgotten? Why should my son suffer because of someone else's shallow judgment? With my heart pounding, I told him to put his coat on. He looked up, confused. I told him we were going to Grandma's house after all. His eyes widened with hope returning like a spark starting a fire again. We stepped outside into the freezing air, breath turning to mist, the world glowing with twinkling lights and joyful music. As we drove, I kept replaying everything in my mind, building courage with every mile. My hands gripped the wheel, determination stronger than fear. My son watched Christmas lights outside the window, smiling again. Little did he know, this night was going to reveal a truth that would change everything. A truth I wasn't ready for, but needed to see with my own eyes, whether it hurt or healed. When we reached the house, I parked a little away so no one would hear us. The driveway was full, all for the perfect Christmas they planned without us. The windows were shining bright with warmth and joy. I could hear laughter from inside. My heart raced because I didn't know what I was walking into. But I had to do it, for my son. We walked up to the porch quietly, and when I peeked through the window, what I saw made my stomach drop and my fists clench with rage I could barely control. Because inside, my sister's kids weren't just included, they were surrounded. Surrounded by gifts. Towering piles of Christmas presents. More than they could ever open in one night. While my son, my sweet little boy, had been thrown away like he didn't matter. My breath caught in my throat as I watched those kids tear into box after box, screaming with excitement while my parents clapped proudly like they were the stars of a Christmas movie. My mom even filmed them, laughing harder every time they unwrapped something expensive or trendy, things she always said she couldn't afford for my son. Seeing all that made my eyes burn with pain and anger, but I stayed quiet. I didn't want to make a scene, not yet. My son tugged at my coat and whispered, "They got so many, do I get one too?" And that tiny question, spoken with such innocent hope, hit me like a punch straight to the heart. Before I could answer, the front door opened. My sister stepped out holding a tray of cookies. The warm smell of chocolate hit us, and for a second, I almost smiled thinking she'd be happy to see us, but her face froze. Her smile dropped into a tight, annoyed line. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, like we were intruders. She quickly pushed the door shut behind her as if hiding the joy inside. I stood taller, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "We came for Christmas," I said, like family does. My sister rolled her eyes and crossed her arms, saying our parents didn't want any drama. Drama? We were the ones hurt. We were the ones excluded. And yet she acted like we were the problem. My son looked down at his boots, suddenly quiet again, his hands fidgeting nervously. She glanced at him and sighed like he was an inconvenience. "We already exchanged gifts," she said. "Besides, Mom doesn't want him breaking anything or causing scenes." That was it. My patience snapped. I told her loudly enough for anyone listening inside that my son wasn't some wild animal. He was a child who deserved love just as much as her kids did. Her expression twisted into a fake sympathetic smile as she leaned closer, whispering, "Everyone knows he's difficult." My heart cracked. She didn't even bother to hide her cruelty. I turned around, ready to leave and protect my son from more humiliation, when the door swung open again. My dad stood there, holding a cup of hot cider. His face showed disappointment, not sadness or regret, but annoyance at seeing us. "We told you not to come," he said flatly, as if that settled everything. My son lifted his head and looked right at him, waiting, just waiting for a single word of welcome. But my dad looked past him like he wasn't even there. I asked why they were treating him like this. What did he do so horribly wrong to deserve being shut out of Christmas? My mom stepped into the doorway now too, holding one of my nephew's new toys. She said, "We just wanted a peaceful holiday this year. Last time, he ruined dinner." I stared at her in disbelief. That ruining dinner she mentioned happened when my son had a sensory overload. He cried because the noise and chaos overwhelmed him. He wasn't being bad, he was scared. They never tried to understand. They never tried to help. They just judged. My son finally whispered, "Grandma, can I please come inside?" His voice was so small, I almost didn't hear it. My mom hesitated, glancing at my dad for permission, and that hesitation hurt more than a direct no. Then she said the most heartless words I could imagine, "Not tonight. Maybe next year, if he behaves better." My son flinched like he had been hit. Tears filled his eyes, but he stayed silent. He didn't scream or cry. He just stood there, taking in the message loud and clear. He wasn't good enough for them. I felt something rise inside me, not just anger, but a fierce protective love that burned hotter than any pain they caused. I grabbed my son's hand, and I told them that one day they would regret choosing picture-perfect memories over real family. They would regret giving all their love to children who already had enough, while leaving the one who needed them the most out in the cold. My voice shook, but my resolve didn't. We turned and walked away, the door closing behind us with a loud thud, like it was sealing us out permanently. Snowflakes landed softly on my son's hair. He squeezed my hand, still trying to be brave, still hoping maybe someone would call him back. But no one did. Not a single person. The laughter from inside continued like we didn't exist. It was like Christmas forgot us. We reached the car, and when I opened the door, my son finally let his tears fall. "Why don't they love me?" he whispered. Those words, they almost destroyed me. I hugged him tight, telling him they do love him, they're just wrong right now. But the truth echoed painfully in my own mind. If this was love, it was the cruelest version of it. I wiped his tears and told him we were going somewhere better. Somewhere full of love. Even if it was just our little home. Even if we had no piles of gifts. Even if we had to build our own Christmas from scratch. Because he deserved joy. He deserved magic. He deserved a family who saw his worth, not one who measured him against perfection. As I drove away, headlights reflecting off the snowy road, my son fell asleep in the back seat, clutching his toy car, the only gift he had. I looked at him through the mirror, feeling a pain so deep it almost made me stop the car. But I kept driving. Something inside me had changed forever tonight. When we finally got home, I carried my son inside, brushing snowflakes off his jacket as he sleepily looked around. Our living room looked so small compared to theirs. Our Christmas tree wasn't glowing with fancy ornaments or expensive decorations, just paper snowflakes he made at school and a few old lights that flickered unevenly. For a moment, I felt guilty. Guilty that I couldn't give him the perfect Christmas he dreamed of. Guilty that he only had me. But then he smiled, the soft kind of smile that comes from a heart still full of hope, and he whispered, "At least we have each other, right?" Those words warmed me more than any fireplace ever could. I tucked him into bed and turned on the small night light shaped like a snowman. His eyes were still puffy from crying, but he tried to be brave. "Santa still knows where I live," he said quietly, more like a question than a statement. I nodded, brushing his hair gently, promising him that Santa never forgets kind kids. And as he drifted off to sleep, I stayed beside him, wiping away my own tears this time. Why did he have to be so strong at such a young age? Why did the world make him feel unwanted when he deserved the universe? When morning came, he woke up early, running to the tree with hopeful excitement, even though there were only 2 presents under it. One from me. One from his teacher. He opened them slowly, like they were the most precious treasures on earth, thanking me with the sweetest smile. "Best Christmas ever," he said, and I almost broke again. Because he was trying to convince himself. He was trying to convince me. He was trying to believe love was enough. And while love is powerful, love shouldn't be the only thing a child has on Christmas. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. My heart jumped for a moment. I foolishly hoped it was my parents, maybe here to apologize, maybe here to finally act like grandparents. I opened the door, but instead I found something unexpected, a group of our neighbors standing outside, bundled in warm coats and holding gifts. I froze, confused. One of them smiled and said, "We heard what happened. No kid should feel forgotten on Christmas. My breath hitched. My eyes filled with tears I couldn't hold back anymore. One by one, they came inside, filling our tiny living room with kindness. They brought hot chocolate, cookies, board games, even homemade decorations. My son stood there speechless, his eyes wide with shock and joy. When he hugged me tightly, I knew this was our real Christmas miracle. Not because of the gifts, but because these people cared without conditions. They saw my son for who he truly was, a good kid with a big heart. While everyone was laughing and talking, my phone buzzed. It was my sister. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got me. Her voice sounded different, quieter, unsure. She asked if we were coming by later. I almost laughed. Later? After they shut the door in our faces? After they decided we didn't belong? I calmly told her we were celebrating with people who actually wanted us there. She tried to say Mom felt bad, but I could tell she just hated how the pictures didn't look perfect anymore, because we weren't in them. I ended the call, and for the first time ever, I felt no fear, no doubt, no desire to chase their approval. I looked at my son dancing with his new friends and realized something powerful. We didn't lose a family that night. They lost us. They lost the chance to love a boy who would have brought them real joy, not the fake kind they posted online. My son came over and took my hand, leading me toward the group as they prepared a game. "Mama," he said happily, "I like our Christmas better." And that one sentence told me everything I needed to know. Our Christmas wasn't ruined. It wasn't less. It was real. It was love. It was healing. Later that night, after everyone left and the house was quiet again, my son curled up next to me on the couch. He whispered, "Thank you for not letting me feel alone." And I hugged him, promising that I would always, always fight for him. Because being his mom is the greatest gift I could ever ask for, better than any wrapped present, better than anyone else's approval. Families aren't the ones who share your blood. Families are the ones who share their hearts. And this Christmas, we finally found ours.